Hello, Maria Wolfe here. Today I would like to talk about an issue, a subject that is terrifying, horrifying, and also huge, and that is sexualizing of children, especially narcissistic parents' sexualizing of children. And if you have children with a narcissist, please listen on. I know this is a very difficult subject and can be triggering anxiety and grief in you, but please just listen, because just acknowledging that this is happening is an important first step to actually doing something about it. So, of course, narcissists, you cannot put them all in the same box. They are all different, and they will behave different and do different things. But I'm speaking in general terms, and I'm sure you can elaborate with examples from your own life. So I grew up with a narcissistic father, and narcissists, it seems that they are not born with this dysfunction. It seems that the healthy narcissistic traits that we have from the get-go are enhanced by an unhealthy upbringing, okay, an unhealthy environment in their childhood. So my father was made a narcissist by his mother, and of course it's very uh, relevant to ask if I am then also a narcissist. And I probably had some traits in my 20s that was narcissistic, and I've worked hard to get on the other side of that. However, this shouldn't be about me. It should be about the narcissists. My father was clearly sexualizing me. When we are children, or children of narcissists are not considered to be individuals. They are not considered to be something else than a narcissist. To the narcissist, a child is a perfect part of themselves. You are not an individual person with other thoughts and needs and opinions than the narcissist. You are an extension of the narcissist, just like their arm, for example. They have an arm and they have a kid. It's also an extension of them. And that's why you are also a property of the narcissist. You are owned by the narcissist. They would never admit to this, of course, but this is how they treat you. They treat you like you are the property of them. And all this I'm saying because I'm working my way into the sexualization and how this can happen. Since you are since you are since you are a child of a narcissist, or you have children with a narcissist, when you're a child of a narcissist, everything you are is owned by them, is theirs. They consider it theirs. And that means that your sexuality is also theirs. Sexuality is totally normal and healthy, and all children have sexuality. When the narcissist discovers that the child starts to grow up and become a person, and starts to grow breasts or get hair on their genitals in the puberty, the narcissist can start to voice that. They can start to comment on that in a way that is sexualizing and clearly gives a signal that they take ownership of what is going on with the child in puberty. So, for example, my father would say, "Oh, you have such beautiful breasts. You will make any man happy with those breasts." Or he would say, "The guys in the world don't know how happy, how fortunate they are. They should feel very lucky to have a woman shaped like you." So he doesn't talk about my personality, that they would be fortunate to get to know me, or get to know who I am, because it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care about who I am. So so he would, as I grew older in my teen years, he would have opinions on how my boyfriends should be. He would want to pick my boyfriend for me, and he actually did. He did. When he was also a binge drinker, and he would go out for days in a row and drink. Um, and when he was out, he would meet guys that he would evaluate. And if he found them to be worthy of a relationship with his daughter, he would try to set us up. And as I became a little older, this was in my 20s and early 30s, he would actually boast about my abilities in bed, even though he had not uh, attacked me. He had not been emotionally or physically abusive towards me sexually. He never raped me or touched me. Well, he touched me inappropriately, but not in a sexual way, if that makes sense. It was more in a clinical way. I'll get back to that. But he would boast, and he would tell men when he was out drinking, he would tell them that his daughter was really, really good at giving blowjobs. So if they wanted to, he liked them. So if they wanted to, he could give them my phone number and they could call me and set up a date. Fortunately, there was none of them did. One guy was very sweet and actually called me and said, "You know what? I have a somewhat difficult subject that I want to talk to you about. You don't know me, but I have met your father in town, and you should know that your father is going around town talking about how good you are at giving blowjobs, trying to set you up with a date." I was single at that point in my early 30s. And I was so shocked. And I asked my father, "Do you really do this? Do you go out drinking and tell people that I give good blowjobs?" And he was like, "Yeah, but it's just for fun. I'm so proud of you. And, I'm your father. And I know that of course, I'm amazing in bed. So, of course, you are also amazing in bed. I mean, of course, I don't know this. How would I know? But I know you are an amazing woman, so I know that of course you give good blowjobs, right? And I mean, it's just a little fun when I'm out in town. Of course, this is not okay. In any kind of universe or moral culture, this is not okay. It is not okay to talk about your daughter's sexuality to strange men and give them her number. But it was also in more subtle ways. He would say, when I was in my teens and I had my first boyfriends at 15, 16, 17, he would say, "Just understand that no one can ever love you the way I love you. And they can never give you what I give you." Yeah, he would say stuff like that. Of course, he would be jealous of the guys who I fell in love with. And he would also say he would want me to talk about my sexual experiences with these guys. He would try to interrogate me and say, "So how is sex for you? Do you like it? How is he treating you? Is he doing it right?" And it was so embarrassing to talk about when I was like 16 and 17, because it is not a subject you want to talk about with your parent. You might want to talk about the subject with another grown up that you are not that close to, but talking about it with a parent is really, really overstepping for my boundaries. And of course, this is how it is for most children. So, sorry, it's horrible. Um, um, so he would do these things, and it would all be very subtle and very, almost innocent, but his intention would be that he cared for me and wanted to protect me. And of course, it wasn't at all. It didn't feel like that. When I was 14 and my breast started growing, he would take me to a homeopathic doctor, because he would look at my breasts when he would, when I was in the shower, he would come into the shower and just pretend that he was walking through the room. And I couldn't set boundaries. I couldn't say, "Hey, Dad, I don't want you to go through the shower room. It's kind of private." He would be, "I'm your father. I can do shit like that." Like like there was different boundaries for him and other people, of course, regarding to me, or regarding me and my body and my life. But he would look at my breasts, and he would take me to a homeopathic doctor in Denmark, and he would make me take off my shirt. He didn't ask me if I wanted to do this, of course. It was his project. And he would make me take off my shirt. And back then, when my breasts were growing, the veins were very visible. So I had blue veins, very visible blue veins, and that made my what do you call them, nipples, sort of bluish. And he wanted to check if this was normal. So he made me take off my shirt, and had this strange man with a big beard that I didn't know and had never talked to show him my breasts, and he would look at them and touch them and squeeze them and say, no, they're perfectly normal, and make me take back my clothes, take on my clothes. And we never talked about it. It was just an experience where I had no say, and I was not asked about anything, and I was not met, and I was not seen as a person. I was treated like an object that was faulty, and I had so much trouble for many, many years. I was so ashamed of my breasts because I knew that there was something wrong with them, but I couldn't ask anybody about it. Because, of course, it was so shameful that I couldn't be honest about it. So horrible. So there were other examples of this. For example, one time he was really, really drunk, and he had a whiskey glass in one hand, and he said, "Come on, walk me out to the toilet. I have something to talk to you about." It was at a party. And you don't say no to a narcissistic parent. You just don't say no. And I had seen him, beat up women all through my childhood. So of course I wouldn't say no. So I walked him into the toilet, and I was like, "Can't you do this on your own and we can talk later?" And he was like, "No, come on, I'm your father." That was the ultimate argument. I'm your father. So he had special rights because he was my father. And then he had to pee, and he opened the door into the toilet room, and he had a drink in one hand and a cigarette in one hand. So he said, "I can't hold my own penis because I have a drink in one hand and a cigarette in one hand. Can you please hold my penis for me so I can pee?" And I was like, this is one of the very few times in my life that I said no to him. I said, "No, Dad, I'm not going to do that. I can hold your drink and I can hold your smoke, but I'm not going to hold your penis." And again, he looked at me and he was like, "What the fuck? Why not? I'm your father." And I was like, "Yes, and I am not going to hold your penis for you so you can pee." And then I turned around and I walked out, and he never spoke about it. I think he knew that he overstepped a really big boundary right there, but he never spoke about it. And of course, I didn't either, because how was I supposed to talk about it? So his mother, and this is where it gets interesting, because when you have a narcissistic parent of the opposite sex, it is very likely that they will sexualize you. If the parent is of the same sex, it is very likely that they will be jealous. They will also be jealous if they're of the opposite sex when you start growing up and start being interested in the opposite sex. They will be jealous. So, but if you're the same sex, it's very likely that they are not as such sexualizing you, but they will probably demean or ridicule your body. Okay? They will be like covert sexualizing you. They will fuck up your relationship with your body by talking about your body or giving you looks that speak. You know, they will look at your breasts in a way that signals that there's something wrong with you. And of course, you cannot ask them. If you ask them, why are you looking at my breasts and doing the thing, they will go, oh, you are so sensitive. Forget about it. I mean, can't I do anything without you having to criticize me and comment on it? You know, they will be doing like stuff like that. You cannot have a rational conversation with a narcissistic person. It's not possible because their maturity is not age appropriate. Their emotional development stops at a very early age, and you can never have like an adult conversation with them. It's not possible. So my father's mother was also sexualizing him. She called him her little man. And she said, oh, you make me feel more feminine than any other man could ever do. You are so handsome. Oh, you look so strong. You have such nice muscle toning. And your smile. Ooh, if I was a girl, I would certainly fall for that smile and you would ravish me, wouldn't you? She would say stuff like that. And I mean, it's not directly incest. It's not the physical act as such, but they are implying things and they are doing it so subtly. And if you know a narcissist, you know that this is true. They are masters of implying things in a subtle way where they never really offend you, but they offend you in 1,000 ways. And my father's father, my grandfather, got into jail for fraud. He was a charlatan and fucked anything with a pulse, drank a lot, had several companies and went bankrupt time and again. The people, I don't know what you call them in English, fogden, the debt collectors came and took away all their furniture several times in my father's childhood, where he would come home from school and all the furniture would be gone because the debt collectors had come and picked it all up. So he didn't really have a role model in his father. And the father was away a lot on business, in jail, and with mistresses. So he was alone with his mother a lot. And she would definitely treat him like he was an extension of her, just like he treated me as an extension of him. My father had a brother, and my father was a golden child, and the brother was the black sheep. So she would treat him like he could do nothing wrong sometimes, and sometimes he was the worst. You know, he was the devil. That's how they do it. They keep you in place and manipulate you to never really be good enough. So she would do stuff like that, and she would take him from his bed and carry him into her bed, and she would lie there and she would stroke him and touch him, just not on his genitals, but just in a very loving way, like lovers would do. And she would say, oh, I wish you could always sleep here with me in the big bed and be the little man that I think you are. You are my little man. And he told me these things in his life. He told me these things time and again. He gave me examples of how she was as a mother. By the way, she was an amazing grandmother to me. When I was alone with her, she was the only family member who was totally on my side. That's how it felt. She would always say, whatever makes you happy makes me happy. And she would ask me who I was, and she would ask me what I liked and what meant something to me and what I was doing. She would actually be interested in me in a way that she was never with my father. And this is something that I often see as a coach and psychotherapist. I see that the narcissists, that are horrible persons or parents, persons as parents, they will be really amazing grandparents because they don't have that. A grandchild is not like the extension of them. It's a product of their extension. So it's like the grand prize. So they will treat them as the grand prize and can actually have a really good and loving relationship with their grandchildren. So she was sexualizing him. And because she did that, his boundaries was sort of washed out on these areas. And that was how he could be sexualizing me, because his own sexual borders to his parent were washed away, and he could wash my boundaries away like that. And sexualize me without feeling bad about it. To him, it was natural because it was natural to her. And I know for a fact that she grew up with her father. Her mother died when she was 9. When my grandmother was 9, her mother died. So she was alone with her father. And I've only met him twice, when he was in his late 90s. And he was also a charlatan, and there was definitely something wrong with him. He had clearly no boundaries and was not all there. So I can easily imagine how it must have been growing up as a little girl in his company. I don't know for sure, but I can have my speculations and my fantasies about what it was like. So it's kind of inherited down through the family, these not respecting boundaries and sexualizing your kids. But of course, it's not only that, it's also the feeling from the narcissistic parent that the child is an extension of them, that they have the right to actually own the child's love and sexuality and thoughts, and meddle in their relationships, meddle in their partnerships. So this is about the sexualization of the narcissist's child. So what you can do as a person who has children with a narcissist, of course, if you're an adult child of a narcissist, you have to work with this in therapy and work with this on your own. But if you have children with a narcissist and you are facing something like this, just be sure to not make sexuality something horrible. Don't make it wrong. Don't be shocked. Don't do like, oh my God, did he do that? Because then you are enforcing the feeling of shame and being wrong in the child. The child knows that this is wrong. There's something wrong, but they cannot word it. And don't enhance that. So if you want to work with this, just teach them your body is yours, and you are always allowed to set boundaries. And this is with everyone, with me, with your other parent, with friends, with boyfriends and girlfriends. You are always allowed to say no. And you are allowed to say no, even though you have said yes previously. Or even though you have not set a boundary earlier, you are still allowed to say no. One of my therapists in my own personal work said, even though it's halfway in, you can still say, you know what? No, I don't want to do this. You don't owe a potential sexual partner anything. And you don't owe anyone to not have boundaries or do something that you don't want to. Even if you have said earlier that you wanted to, you are allowed to say no and stop it right there. So teach them that they can do boundaries. Teach them that their body is theirs and nobody else's. And as I've said in my other videos about having children with a narcissist, don't talk about the narcissist, because the child has like an undying 200% loyalty to the narcissist. So instead of talking about the narcissist, talk about the child and what the child needs and what you want to teach the child. And be sure that you are a good role model, that you also live this, not only talk about it, but you also live this. Yeah. So if you want to teach your children to be happy, be sure to make yourself happy. If you want to teach your children that they should have boundaries, have boundaries. If you want to teach your children that they should not accept abuse, do not accept abuse. Okay? We are not teaching our children what we say, we're teaching them what we are. Okay, my name is Mariah Wolfe. Be sure to subscribe and share this video so more can benefit from it. I hope that you will take the content of this video and run with whatever is useful for you. And if you have questions, feel free to ask questions, and I will be happy to answer them. Take a look at my webpage, visiblehearts.com, where I have articles and blogs about narcissism and traveling, and lots of other stuff. Okay, so thank you for listening. Thank you for taking yourself seriously. See you soon again. Bye.